panel sessions. Guests to come up on stage. Tara, Huma, if I could ask you to come up. Iftikhar as well. I'm going to lead this session. We need one more chair. And then Aliza, who is joining us from the United Kingdom, and Sanam is joining us also via Zoom. So hopefully we can get them on live. So yeah, wherever you're comfortable. एक और कुर्सी ले आए और ये दोनों माइक्स मुझे दे दें. देखिए आज इस तरह दिन निकला. मैंने कॉफी नहीं पी है सुबह से. आ जाए ज़रीन कुरैशी, आ जाए. So we need one more chair. एक और chair दे दे. हाँ, आ जाए. हाँ, वो नहीं सोच चला कि क्या मैं आ जाए. एक और chair दे दे. Okay. On it? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so thank you everyone for being patient. This is our panel session, Unstoppable Women. This session is actually a precursor to a session that's going to take place at the Leader Summit in New York. So I'm really excited. I'm also excited to be leading this session as a man. This is the third time I'm leading an all-woman, and if honorary woman, panel session. It gives people like myself and Iftikhar a chance to get inside your head. I have 2 young daughters, so it's always enlightening to be on these kind of sessions. So just to give some context about today's session, really we're here to find out a little bit about what's happening in progressing gender equality. We know there's a lot of work already going on around the world, and actually quite a lot going on in Pakistan in terms of policy development, but we now have many women leaders. But we want to try and find out what that journey's been like. We all know what's happening, but I want to try and understand a little bit of the journey from your perspectives. Be open, be frank, be honest. This is a gupshup with friends. And let's hope to inspire other people who are also on this journey, either as empowered young women embarking on their journey, as women business leaders who are still navigating this space, and for those men who are still trying to make sense of it all. So I'd like to welcome here with me Huma Adnan, Tara Dawood, Zareen Qureshi, and Iftikhar Butt. There's no need for introductions. You're awesome and amazing people. If anyone wants to reach out to any of them, they can do so through LinkedIn. And then Hassan, could you check if we have Aliza and Sanam dialing in live? Yeah, they are. Can we show them on screen? And then we can take them on board as well. So screen share kar le, so we can see. Yeah. Okay, well, hopefully they're there. Yeah, so Aliza's there. Hi, Aliza. Assalamu alaikum. And we've got some other people who have jumped into the session. So Faizan is not until the later session, and same with Mariam. But that's okay. You guys can listen in. Aliza, can you hear us? Okay. Well, assuming she can. Okay, so let's get started. So like I said, we want to try and find out about how you guys have navigated this journey of being empowered leaders, both male and female. I want to try and find out about what you've been doing to educate your colleagues, engage your colleagues, and empower not just the women, but the men around you as well. I'm going to start off with Tara, you. If you could share your journey, and you guys feel free to jump in as well if you want to add or comment.
Thank Thank you, Zubair. So my journey is very this way and that
Really?
way, beginning with finance, and I'm a specialist in Sharia compliant finance, and then financial inclusion of women, to doing also education of girl, and now an incubation center as well, which is Pakistan's first ever incubation center for women and co-working space, the Barak Center. And some of you may have known a couple of weeks ago, we held the night market by Ladies Fund,
Yeah, it was
Pakistan's
awesome.
first ever night market gathering women artisans from across the nation. So it's a journey that's taking us in new and unexpected ways all along the lines of building opportunities for people, particularly women's economic empowerment and education of girls.
And has that been fun? Because I know it's not always when you're running a business and doing so many things like you are, but have you had fun along the way, or has it just all been hard work?
You know, it's been so much torture, Zubair, you can't imagine. Actually, I love what I do, and most importantly, it's not what I do, it's for and by the community. So what's been really amazing for me in this journey is that it's a community working together for a community. Wonderful women like Huma, who's one of our commendation winners in fashion at Ladies Fund, has done so much herself. And obviously Zareen and other panelists and speakers here, and Sanam's a winner as well when she comes later. It's a community, and it's for Pakistani women to support one another with the support of men, amazing men like we have here today,
Thank you.
to build and grow opportunities for economic advancement and education for one another. Even today's experience is a learning one for me. I'm continually learning how polished you have, how you have so many international and local speakers simultaneously in this format, and how you manage to build SOPs into traditional UNDP sustainability goals and other best practices. We're building this together, and it has been a lot of fun.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that it's been fun, because if it was hard work, then Iftikhar and I have got a long road ahead. Huma, what's it been like for you? Obviously, you're in a slightly different industry, but obviously in Pakistan, like Tara. Has your journey been easy in sort of getting to where you are? Has it all been plain sailing, or have you really had to fight hard for where you are right now?
Okay, firstly, a little bit about myself. I've done my bachelor's in statistical mathematics, and then I did my master's in business administration. So this was a totally different thing that I discovered. I've been a banker, and then I am a fashion designer, and then I started working with refugees living in Pakistan. Yes, it was a struggle. It is a struggle, and I think it's going to be that way until people realize that this is something that they need to understand, that people that we work with, especially the inclusive communities, they need to be sustainable. So my actually more of my emphasis is to make the people that I work with, make them sustainable, and basically, bring them above poverty level, make them earn at least minimum wage level, if not more. So this is exactly what I do. Regarding struggles, yes, when I was given a batch of refugees to work with, what they came up with was that the first thing they asked me was, how much will they get paid? How many hours do they have to give in? They were not interested in what I'm going to be training them, how they will go about understanding the whole project, because they were not artisans. They were simple women living in their homes with another maybe 10 other family members. And yes, they were living in below poverty level. For them, any vocational training is a money-making thing. I mean, for them, if the government does it, if UN does it, if any other organization does it, what they only want to see is how much money they are getting out of this training. So it was extremely difficult for me to make them understand that this is not it. You need to move forward. You need to basically become sustainable in what you are doing. It doesn't end when the training ends. It needs to move on. So this is the struggle I faced. And even now, my first batch has disappeared. It's not there. So I don't know where they've gone. So I have to restart again with the next batch and another batch and another batch. So yes, it's a struggle, not just for me, also the organization that I work with, because for them, it's just a lot of paperwork. They just need to make the report look very good. Okay, 100 women trained and dusted. So this is not how the concept should be. For me, it is something very close to my heart, and I wanted to move forward. For me, it is making a supply chain, and for me, it is marketing their product, making the supply chain, and selling the product so that in return their homes run, and in return they become sustainable, which everybody doesn't understand, neither the organization that we work with nor the refugees or any other inclusive community that is there. So yeah, it's a
Clearly,
struggle.
so in that struggle, I'm seeing a lot of opportunities. One of the things, I'll just give my two pence worth, as they say in the UK. I have an issue with the word refugee. I don't like it. I don't think it's fair to call someone displaced or refugee. So if I could request that everyone is conscious of that and we come up with a new word, whatever that may be in our lifetime, that would be great.
Displaced is better. We call them displaced.
Yeah, something different. But I get your point, and I know that most households, everyday households, first priority is कि घर पे खाना है या नहीं है,
Exactly.
बच्चे की
Minimum
सराहत, all
wage
that kind of
level
thing.
is at least something that one needs to look
Yeah.
into, not like just one training and that then finished. Then when is the next training? There's no sustainability. There's no consistency in what they are doing, and which is very sad.
And I think it's collaboration now, isn't it? I see opportunities. Maybe you guys have already had this conversation, but from your education program and your work program, maybe there's some kind of JV there as well. Iftikhar, I want to move on to you. Take your perspective. You're leading, you're CEO of a huge organization, and you have all types of people working there, all types of backgrounds. What's been your journey, both as an organization but as an individual, in trying to navigate this whole space? Have you ever had किसी ने मतलब इस तरह से पूछा है कि आप क्या जानते हो जेंडर के बारे में? Because I get that all the time, and I say मेरी दो बेटियां हैं, and if I can't get it right, then I don't think anyone else will. What's been your journey?
Thank you, Zubair. I will give you the interloops perspective here. Well, the journey has been very challenging, no doubt, especially being in the manufacturing industry. I will talk about the challenges later, but I will tell you the achievements first. I think the biggest achievement with organization has achieved is that if you look at the percentage at the Pakistan country level for the STEM sector, where there are non-traditional roles for women in the industry, I think the overall Pakistan stands at 10%, whereas Interloop is now close to 40%. So that is the empowerment which we have achieved. And it wasn't easy. We took a lot of initiative by making the workplace safe and free of any hurdles and barriers, bringing in the world-class daycare center in the industry. And if we talk about the challenges or hurdles which we are facing, is law of the land. If I compare the law of Pakistan as compared to other economies where the textile manufacturing facilities are like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, being in the manufacturing facility which is running 24/7, you have to have a shift patterns. And if you have a shift patterns, you have to rotate your employees on that. So if we bring in a lot of women in the manufacturing facilities, then that means they have to come in the night shifts as well. Whereas the law doesn't allow the woman to work in the off hours.
Okay, so there needs to be a shift change in policy as well.
Exactly. So this is where we are facing a lot of challenge. And then the other thing is that the mindset. Manufacturing facilities can't be in the center of the city.
It's not traditional.
It has to be in the remote areas, in the out. We try our level best to give them a safe mobility to the facility back in the child, give them a daycare center. But still, a lot need to be done to change the concept. to, overcome these challenges. But we have set ourselves a target. At the moment, we are nearly 1,500 women working in all of the plants, but we are planning to take 1,000 by end of 2021.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
This is the challenge, the objective which we have set to ourselves.
So that's your roadmap for the next 10 years, effectively. And
yes.
Also, you need help from policymakers and regulators.
Yeah,
And
we are in touch with the government authorities, the right people, to the as well.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Fantastic. Zareen, I'm going to come back to you in a moment. I want to move over to Aliza. Aliza, hi. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear us? Yeah, can we unmute Aliza so we can hear her? Can you hear us? Yeah? But we can't hear you. Let me throw the question at you anyway. You're obviously of a different generation altogether, Gen Z. What's your journey been like from your Gen Z perspective in terms of seeing where women are placed now in terms of work, entrepreneurship? Iftikhar talked about mindsets being changed, and that's still work in progress. Are your parents okay with you doing the stuff that you do? What's going on in your life is basically what we want to know, so we can better understand your journey, and hopefully that can act as inspiration for other young women out there as well. Sound on, correctly? I think we can't hear you, Aliza. Just bear with us. Hassan? Okay, we seem to be having some technical difficulties. Obviously, you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Let me come back to you in a minute. The guys are going to try and work out. Sanam, are you there? And it says someone, so I apologize. Sanam, can you hear us? Okay, so technology के साथ यही होता है. We're clearly a generation that doesn't really get. We'll come back to both of you. Okay. Zareen, let's come over to you. So you're with an amazing organization that's doing great stuff in Karachi. Come back to that in a moment. Obviously passion, but ask you anyway. So do you think in your journey, as we've been trying to navigate both men and women on this journey for women empowerment or equality, and I don't mean equality in the same way that perhaps, but equal, there's a lot more to it than that, parity, I think. Do you think you've seen compassion along the way from men? And have you seen compassion from women as well in inspiring other women to move up the ladder?
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to share a little bit information about the organization that I work with. We have around 650 employees working with us right now. And we're not just in Karachi, we're all over Sindh, and we're in Balochistan as well. And we have 65% of this total lot. I represent those females, and the 35% male as well. When we talk about compassion, CFC works on mindset change through behavior change. It's a lot of struggle, honestly speaking, because when you talk about compassion, people usually associate it with your religion. That only Muslims have to be compassionate, or any other religion. So whenever you're saying your namaz or whenever you're saying your prayer, then only you have to show compassion, or while you're doing charity. No, that's every day, while talking, while sleeping, while walking, while breathing, everything is about compassion. It's about your experiences, it's about how you live. And yes, I have seen compassion not just from the female side that I work with, but also the male side that I work with. I work in a lot of areas where it's very difficult to travel. I work in a lot of areas which are so remote. There's no electricity, there's no phone service available over there. Internet ka to sawal hi nahi paida hota. Traveling over there, working with those people over there, I have seen how men have helped us, and not just the organization that I work in, but the men at the site as well, but the men in the villages as well. I have seen compassion in a very different form. Like हर जगह compassion है अपने different forms में available. आपको अगर कोई गर्मी में खड़े होकर पानी भी पिला रहा है और वो एक ऐसा एरिया है जिसमें औरतें कभी बाहर नहीं निकलती, so that is also compassion for us. We recently started working in Kambar Shadat Court, and one of the areas is very, very close to Balochistan, and it's the border area. आप वहाँ पे travel नहीं कर सकते until and unless you have an SUV. आपकी SUV खराब होती है, आप उतरते हो, आपके आसपास कोई नहीं होता सिवाय कुछ मर्द हजरात के जो वहाँ पे काम कर रहे होते हैं, मगर वो भागते हुए आते हैं, आपको पानी पिलाते हैं और आपकी मदद करते हैं. They don't know us, we don't know them. I believe this is also compassion, and this whole scenario gives me hope in my country, in the work I do, and also to strive. I recently had a daughter, she's also sitting over here. उसकी वजह से थोड़ी सी देर हो गई थी, वो पीछे बैठी हुई है. तो something that I learned throughout this journey, जब मैं expect कर रही थी कि एक औरत की different जो roles, responsibilities होते हैं, वो हम जब एक शहर में काम करते हैं, वो different होते हैं, जब हम गाँव में होते हैं, वो different होते हैं. हम भी स्ट्रगल करते हैं, वो भी स्ट्रगल करते हैं. हर कोई अपनी जर्नी जो है वो जी रहा है और हर कोई अपनी जर्नी के अंदर सर्वाइव भी कर रहा है, प्रॉस्पर भी कर रहा है. सो आई बिलीव कंपैशन एग्जिस्ट इन एवरी फॉर्म इन माय कंट्री, everywhere in the world, I believe.
And will that make it easier for us to break barriers for women?
So to a certain extent, yes. To a certain extent, no. We work very closely with the government, and trust me, it's not easy to convince them to do something. One of the incidents that happened recently is we have an all-girls school in interior Sindh, और वहाँ पे drop out होता था लड़कियों का 9th और 10th में. So when we asked the parents कि क्यों लड़कियों को आप छोड़ देते हैं और क्यों, तो उन्होंने कहा कि हमारी जो फी है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है और इसके अंदर ये होता है कि हम बच्चे लड़कों के दे देते हैं क्योंकि उनको कमाना होता है. It was not something that I wanted to accept, and it was not something that I wanted to take, go further with as far as the projects are concerned. We went to the court, we went to the government, बहुत struggle करी. Trust me, government भी अपनी तरफ से वो करना चाहते हैं जो बहुत दफ़ा नहीं कर सकते because of the bureaucracy, because of all the rules and regulations they also face. बहुत लंबा process होता है. And after 2 years of struggle, we were able to decrease the fee for 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grade. And this was not just for girls, this was also for boys. So अब 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th की अगर फी कम है तो उससे हमारा ड्रॉप आउट कंट्रोल हुआ है, उससे हमारी इनरोलमेंट इंक्रीज हुई है, उससे 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th के बच्चों ने पेपर्स दिए हैं. We recently again submitted a petition right now working on since you were talking about displaced people, so there are a lot of people जो बच्चे 9th और 10th के पेपर्स नहीं दे सकते because उनको बेफॉर्म की ज़रूरत होती है. According to the law, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. Why? Because अगर नादरा का law पढ़ा जाए और 25A पढ़ा जाए तो उसमें everybody has the right to education if that person is born in Pakistan. So we're working on that as well, and inshallah we'll be able to make this happen for them कि वो 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th के papers दे सकें. And this is not just for girls because girls की majority है, but for boys as well, inshallah.
Okay, thanks. Aliza, are we connected now? Hassan हो गया? आवाज आ रही है? Do you want to say something? We can't hear you, but you can hear us. Is there any other way we can get Aliza? Because I'd really like to hear what she has to say. WhatsApp call kar le? Yeah, can you call her on WhatsApp, Nida? All right, Aliza, we're going to call you on WhatsApp. Is she there? Okay. So we'll do a WhatsApp call kar le unko le le. I have a question that came in through just obviously well, I'd like to say we were trending on social media, but I think we're far away from that. Some tweets coming through. So one is, I'm just going to read out one and whoever wants to answer it. Okay, amazing panel session. Love what you guys are talking about, but clearly there's a lot to talk about. We know that. This is just a teaser trailer. There's lots more to happen. You've not really talked about men. Fair point. Tara, Huma, and Sarin, do you have anything to say about what us men need to do? I know Uzma tells me all the time, Zubair, you need to listen a little bit better. Do you have any comments?
I think men are doing so much. Some of the conferences we hold through, in fact, Lean in Pakistan Foundation, which we had in Lahore, men got up in the audience and said, how can we help? There's so much incredible interest in helping women through this process. At the same time, men are there as support, as decision makers, heading companies that have incredible employment records for women. One of the things we've done recently is advocate for 20% of all jobs in the financial sector for women, and the State Bank has announced that new policy, and we hope SECP will follow. These changes could not happen without the support of men. So one has to appreciate that the community that's working together for our community is one of men and women together. And it's when we isolate ourselves that we don't have either the strength or the ability sometimes to uplift ourselves. But because the community is working together, it's making a difference. So I applaud what men are doing. I also strongly, strongly advise men to ask. If you're a man out there and want to know how you can get involved, whether helping the women in your life, whether that be your wife, your mother, your daughters, your sisters, or even as an employer, how to make things more equal or friendly for the women in your workforce, ask. Because sometimes we read these pre-printed books, Google or go on YouTube, how can things be better for the women in our lives, or how can we have gender parity? But the reality is every company, like every family, like is unique. And if we ask the people involved in that equation, i.e. the women in your life, whether it's professional or personal, that's where the difference really comes.
Thank you, Tara.
I would
Strong
also
advice.
endorse what Tara said. You see, what men is extremely important in everybody's life. I mean, for me, getting into the camps, it was very difficult unless and until the men would explain to the women in those camps, I would not be able to have access to those women. Other than that, all my logistics is done by men. All our training is done by men, not just here, but also in Quetta, because our women trainers cannot travel to Quetta. So, of course, our men trainers do that. And by just doing so for the past 1 year, we have managed to get 4 international orders of our jewelry and our masks made by these displaced people, so which is amazing. And not just in Europe, they were also from South America. So, I mean, this is, I think, also because a lot of it has to be done with the logistics that was facilitated by the men force. So, yeah, I think men do a lot.
Fantastic. I've got one other. No, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Please do.
So I would mention कि if it was not for them, हम सब यहाँ पे नहीं होते. Number one, उनको जो एक, what I would want them to do is to accept what we are, how we are, because it's at time difficult to make them understand कि किस situation में we're working and किस situation में हम बैठ रहे हैं, किस situation में खड़े हो रहे हैं. So if they accept us and do not want to change us, I believe that's the best that they can do, because let us be who we are. And that's what I've also asked the people in my organization to, because working under a female boss, it's not easy at times, trust me. मैंने खुद उनकी शक्लों पे frustration देखी है बहुत दफ़ा. So it's not easy.
I've been there too.
So it's not easy, but वो काम करते हैं, सुनते हैं, मदद करते हैं. मैं भी उनसे मदद लेती हूँ, वो भी मुझसे मदद लेते हैं. But honestly speaking, they've accepted it कि yes, females can also lead. So they've accept us the way we are, I believe.
Iftikhar, what's your view? What's your advice for women? Careful. Aram se sambhal ke.
No, I'll second what Tara said, that I think we have been following literature a lot.
Yeah.
We have not asked. So I think we should ask.
We've not asked, we've not listened. और अगर हम सुनते भी हैं तो सही नहीं से सुनते.
No, this is very, I think asking is something which the men should do, because they may share their genuine on-field experience, which the person who has written the literature or the books may not have.
You know, there's also another perspective as well. You know, this came through in a conversation I had in a panel session 6 or 7 months ago, that products and services need to be made for women as well. And I don't mean the traditional products and services that we talk about for women, but with a thought output.
Testing.
Women have a different kind of thought process when developing products. There's a lot more compassion in the products and services. So I'll give you an example. There was a tech company, and they said, when we make mobile phone components, we think which person is going to be using this, and if it's a lady, then the lady listens with a different part of her ear than the guy. And she listens with compassion, so she stays on the phone for longer, which means we need to put a cooling mechanism in the chip so that it doesn't heat up. Whereas for guys, point to point, rakho, gapshap karo, baat khatam karo. So it was really, I mean, it's an amazing kind of insight into that as well. Aliza, do we have you?
Can you hear me now?
Fantastic. Right. So what are your thoughts? How are we breaking barriers for women, and what makes people like you unstoppable?
So, I loved hearing everyone in the panel today. I think what I and other panelists share is an opportunity for South Asian women in the room to imagine and believe in what they could all become. For a long time, I believed heavily in the quote, "You can't be what you can't see," because I rarely saw anyone like me when I looked at covers of magazines, in our politics, or leading their own business. And this concept does not have to be true for Pakistani women. I confidently proclaim that being Pakistani and being a woman has never felt like a challenge to me. For a lot of privileges that I did have growing up, I was very privileged and lucky enough to receive full-time education, to be at university now. But at the same time, there's a stark irony. I'm in London now, I'm from Britain, and think it is the right that as a woman, I'm paid the same as many male counterparts. I think it is right that I should be able to make decisions about my own body. I think it is right that women be involved on my behalf in the policies and decision-making of my country. I think it is the right that socially I'm afforded the same respect as men. But sadly, I can say that there is no one country in the world where all women can expect to receive these rights. And no country in the world can say yet that they have achieved gender equality 100%. It's a long journey and it's a very tough one. These rights I consider to be human rights, but I'm one of the lucky ones. My life is a sheer privilege because my parents didn't love me less because I was born a daughter. My school did not limit me because I was a girl. My mentors didn't assume I would go less far because I might give birth to a child one day. These influencers were the gender equality ambassadors that made me who I am today. They may not know it, but these are the Edmonton feminists who are changing the world today. And we need more of these. I've seen young men suffering from mental illness, unable to ask for help, for fear it would make them look less macho. And in fact, the suicide is the biggest killer of men between 20 to 49 years of age, eclipsing road accidents, cancer, and coronary heart disease. And I've seen men made fragile and insecure by distorted sense of what constitutes male success. Men don't have the benefits of equality either. I think both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. And if a woman recognizes that, that's what makes her unstoppable. That's what makes an individual unstoppable. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum, not as two opposing sets of ideals. And if we stop defining each other by what we're not and start defining ourselves by what we are, we can all be freer. And just on this tangent, I'm going to go a bit further. I've been asked about work-life balance in almost every other non-political or non-academic interview. And I think there's a problem with the question, why are women even asked that? So many people have asked, how do you balance your career with your workload at home? I understand that this is a question of vital importance to many people, particularly to other mothers and young girls who are artists trying to get their work done. I know that I feel for everyone in the struggle. But until I see a male writer ask the same question or a male influencer, I'm going to respectfully decline to answer it. I think in improving gender balance, women may hold the keys, but it's almost as if men generally still control the locks. And why is that so? There's clearly an overall expectation that the burden of managing a household, of cooking, of looking after everyone, of raising children falls primarily to women. And obviously people think that for a reason, which is that most women actually do spend more time than their husbands on house or childcare or cooking. But the assumption also reinforces the gender dynamics as much as it is harmless. It occurred to me recently that families and friends know all about what their daughter wants her home life to look like, how many kids she wants, what she wants to do to name them, how old she wants them to be when she gets married, in addition, what job she wants to pursue. But we aren't really asking the sons about that stuff. How many kids does the son want? What age does he want to get married? What does he want to name his kids? He wasn't bringing it up, and no one is asking sons these questions.
They're interesting points that you raised, and they were some of the tweets that came through Zubair about the work-life balance of an everyday woman. So thanks for raising that point. This is all we've got time for. It's been absolutely amazing. I've mentioned we could go on for ages, but we have other panel sessions to get through today. I've just got one final question to you, just a reflective moment. We'll just start with you, Tara, first. You wake up on the 1st of January 2030, you have your lovely espresso or cappuccino in your hand. What does the world look like to you on that day when you look back on the last 10 years?
What a lovely question, Zubair. And I hope everyone in the audience has a chance to visualize their perfect January 1 morning on 2030. For me, I hope that decade reduces or ideally ends poverty, and each and every boy and girl and man and woman, not only in our nation, but around the world, has the ability to know and believe that what they dream is possible, and they have stories and role models in front of them for a sign for that. Now, that's idealistic, as you all know. Realistically, I hope there is a safe space for women and men to be able to pursue their dreams, as well as to be able to be economically secure, which is very, very important. And it begins with education. So Zarene's talk about how our nation already has policies enabling everyone to be educated. So we need a culture and a community that supports that. And I think that's very doable by 2030. I also wish and feel that the women who are going to be continually in positions of power, influence, and decision-making will be able to affect the quality of life and products. So Bear gave the most amazing example of a phone that actually cools down, knowing that women speak much longer than men. Just those little perceptions, once they're in lines of influence, and those could even be just the fact that more and more women are on board seats. That in itself can make a huge difference by 2030. Thank you.
Homa, what does 1st January 2030 look like?
I think for me, 2030 should be, I should be able to breathe in fresh air without the mask. I mean, that should be my first thing. Other than that, of course, I want the world to be free of poverty. I want the inclusive communities to be a part of any country's economic growth. And I want education to be the #1 priority for everybody. So that's what my motto is.
Iftikhar, what's your 2031 look like?
I wish we should have a safe and clean world with zero poverty, and equality has to be there.
All right, amazing. Zareen, what's yours?
So the motto I've been working with, Saaf Suthra, Mehfooz aur Behtar Pakistan. The Pakistan where we do not have any restrictions on talking, a Pakistan where we can talk very openly about Abdul Salam and what he did for us, a Pakistan where there's no sectarian violence, a Pakistan where every religion is free, every person is free, and a Pakistan that Muhammad Ali Jinnah dreamt of. That's what my dream is in 2030, inshallah.
Awesome. Aliza, what's your 2030? Now, will you be having coffee or will you be having an Earl Grey tea? Is the second question. But what does your 1st of January 2030 look like?
Well, I'd really hope that as a UN ambassador, I can proudly say then that we've achieved the SDGs, all 17 of them. And more precisely, I would love that we have achieved different things in health, education, and climate. In health, about health equity and equality for all, ensuring that every person, no matter what ethnic background, what ethnic minority they're from, does have access to affordable healthcare. Education for all, and lastly, climate action in a way that promotes gender equality, that promotes the voices of those that are most affected by climate change. And we're all a happy, lively community around the world. We can start by encouraging our daughters and sons to think about both sides of their lives, family and work, citizen, global responsibility. And we can remember to ask everyone in our lives how they juggle it all.
Okay, awesome. Guys, that's all we have time for. I'm going to invite you back for online, offline, hybrid, virtual, just because there's so much to talk about. I don't think we've even touched the tip of the iceberg. Aliza, thank you for joining us from London. I'm going to ask